David Ross with the LEO Network, and another edition for you. But I got some great guests here and some great training that we're about to talk about. I've been excited for the last couple of days, and we'll get to it in a minute. But first, I want to bring out and give a shout out to our sponsor, Seco Campbell Harris Security Equipment Company. Jump on the website at cseco.com. I'm going to show you the website because I want to give you all the stuff that they offer. And yeah, there's a website there. Reviews, testimonials, registration, gallery, products from contraband team detection kit to personal radiation detectors. Like I said last time, they got the new product out, the personal hammer probe. So get on the website, press releases. You can see there at the bottom relevant articles. So you won't be disappointed if you go on this website. It's huge. Seco.com, cseco.com. And but now let's get to the guests. This is what I was excited about. I can't wait to talk about this stuff. See if I can get rid of this screen here. There we are. CovertMediaConsulting.com. And that's the website, but the name of the company is Covert Media Consulting. We got the owner, John Hawk. He's at the bottom. Throw your hand up.
Yes, sir.
There he is. And then we got Eric Enzel in the right-hand corner of the screen. What's going on, fellas?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You guys sound fired up. I'm excited about that.
I'm ready to go.
Hey, this company's been around. You mentioned something to me in 2017. This company's been around longer than that, or is that when you started this company?
Yeah, 2017 is when I started it. Yes, sir.
And so before we actually going to be at the same time, you started this company, John. Tell us a little bit, because we're going to get into details, but tell us a little bit about what the company and what your training is about, and then how you came about it. What made you get up and say, yeah, I got to offer this. We got to do this.
Sure. So I've been employed as a police officer since 2008. In the last 15 years, we've been sent to trainings all over the U.S. and historically, law enforcement training has been taught by retired law enforcement and or some sort of private sector training. And what I noticed is over the last probably 10 years or so, each training that I'd go to, it seemed like more and more trainings were being hosted by retired law enforcement. And I noticed my classmates in a lot of our training classes, as soon as the introduction would be done with the instructor, people in the room would check out almost immediately.
Phones came out, right?
Exactly. And most of the classes we were being sent to were advertised as the most up-to-date investigative technique courses, right? And they're being taught by retired and or detectives or officers that have been out of the game for a while. And probably the straw that broke the camel's back for me is one of the last classes that I went to. The instructor sat up there and showed screenshots of news articles that were upwards of 15 to 18 years old at that current time.
Man.
And,
that's a lot of time.
Yeah. And and obviously the audience was gone, checked out. And basically, I'll never forget looking at my partner thinking, like, we got to change this. This is ridiculous. Like, nobody's getting anything out of this training, and people are wasting their time coming to this. So basically, we just kind of started showing people what we were essentially screwing up. When I transferred to an investigations division in 2013, is nobody was really operating on social media in an undercover capacity at that time. It was really new to the space, and we just got on there and just screwed stuff up. I'm sure it pissed our bosses off at the time, but we got on there and just screwed a lot of stuff up. And our course, kind of the original course of social media investigation, started out as like a 2 or 4 hour course, and has blossomed into like a 3 and 4 day now, and sometimes even a week long, depending on the audience. And that's kind of how this got started in 2017, and it's really grown since then.
And so you're going to, was that every training you were talking about, or specific to what you guys offer now? I mean, well, actually, I know the answer to that because in my 13 years, it would be any training. They check out after the introduction, and and then they say, we'll send you emails to update. No one's looking at them damn things, right?
Right.
But for you, is it specific to this, media consulting type deal, or just everything for you?
Yeah, so we were at the time in 2013. I transferred to our investigations division. I was a brand new detective transferred to our gang unit, and basically nobody was working on social media cases at that time at my agency. And I worked for a pretty large agency in the Dallas area. We're about 400 sworn at any given day, and we seeked out training all over the nation to try to get schooled up on the cases we were working on, and we just couldn't find anything. And to be honest with you, we found more knowledge and skill set in just going out there and screwing stuff up and then learning from our mistakes. And so yeah, that's what we focus on now. Is we focus on investigative techniques, and I would say most of our classes are built on kind of out of the box investigative techniques that not a lot of people are doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, thugs ain't scheduled. They don't keep schedules, so you got to, right? And then you got you got your buddy Eric there. Uh, Now you guys, Eric, John mentioned something about you guys. You guys use what you teach in different capacities. You know what I'm saying? So, give us your background and tell us about how you got into it. Was it the same thought process as far as wanting to actually give training that's engaging or and so forth?
It's pretty similar. Been a law enforcement officer since about 2005. Spent a couple years in patrol tactical. Went to investigations in 2013. And just like John said, there was no playbook or manual on how to start leveraging social media or a lot of open source investigations into the stuff we were doing. My unit was primarily undercover surveillance apprehension for homicide offenders, serial armed robbers, and so guys who you traditionally can't find using law enforcement databases, the traditional resources, utility bills, typical OSINT stuff that your average good guy is going to have. So it was all self-taught through trial and error on guys that needed to be found, and just through creativity, finding ways to leverage social media accounts, specifically undercover accounts, direct undercover engagement, catfishing, if you will, but infiltrating social media networks and criminal organizations using free tools that everybody has access to. So over the years, developing specialties for it, starting to have people in your own unit directly go to you right away at the start of an emergency or case, having people from other units, or the best thing was just finding people that everyone else in the state's trying to find that they just can't find, and you pull them in within 2 hours of starting. And so you can have the ego and want to be the guy who does the thing and have everyone go to you, but to be honest, if we want to be successful as a profession, as a department, as a unit, you've got to bring everybody up to speed. So if you can't, for whatever reason, your accounts get burned, you need more people who can do the thing to save lives.
Well said. So, John, we're going to get with you and get. I'm going to touch on you in a minute about how you use the system for what you do. But what I still have, Eric. So you mentioned you finding people, right? So I know what you're talking about. You set those dummy accounts, right? And you're looking for, you know, somebody bragging about the pound they got or the kilo or whatever the case may be, because criminals are stupid. They're smart, stupid, I guess you could say, right? You're looking for stupidity, right? As to find these people, or damning evidence, right? Is that am I on the right path there? Because you mentioned something about finding a shooter, right? Can you touch on that? You could talk about that, right? That
Yeah,
case?
absolutely. This is one of the first big successes I had a long time ago. But the big thing I preach whenever we teach actual use and deployment of undercover accounts is not in some cases you have to, but it's not the one-off. I take a picture of a pretty girl, pretend to be a female, reach out for the hookup, or the typical romantic catfish engagement. That's a legitimate technique, and it works a lot of the time. But to really get your money's worth out of these techniques, I teach people to develop really long-term accounts, get hundreds of thousands of connections, and get so intertwined and ingrained in people's social networks that by the time you need to find them, you already look like you belong. So if we talk about basic information security concepts and ways to defeat catfishing or social engineering attacks, if you've established a long-term account and your contact looks reasonable, like it should be there, the target's going to be a lot less paranoid and a lot more willing to divulge information. In this specific instance, we had a guy I initially engaged when we were looking for a family member through an unrelated fugitive and auto theft case. The kid liked to brag about shooting at cops and running from police. So I made a point just to keep him in the network and keep track of him over time. About 6 months go by. A couple of our DWI officers are shot at during a pursuit. I think about the kid. I check his page. There's cryptic tweets, mentions of being in a chase. I think, wow, that's good chance it's our guy. Then he starts linking news articles to the actual shooting, so I know, well, this is absolutely our guy.
Why do they pause real quick? Why in the hell did they do that? I don't understand that.
But
you know what I mean?
People are so ingrained to thinking that social media is you have to engage with it, you have to put your protected information out there. But you just the links and the messages, obviously not enough to charge them for anything. But since I had previously engaged him 6 months ago, I've been in his network, built friends, through his contacts. When I reached out to him expressing my worry about him, instead of asking, hey, where are you? Again, the reasonable contact from inside the network, knowing things that typically as a police officer and outsider I wouldn't know. This looked like normal communication. And throughout communication over maybe a week or two, he eventually confessed to being the one that shot. We ran some exigent pings on his phones, found him, got a full confession and conviction.
Wow. But you said you could use that, right? Or did you say you couldn't use that?
We could.
Okay.
There was, and like John said, learning things kind of by stumbling across them. I was pretty concerned that they were going to look at my engagement as, I don't think coercion's the word, but Fourth Amendment violations and interrogation without Miranda. But with all the social media case law that we teach in some of our classes, and the DAs ran with it, and it was never challenged. So some
of your trial and errors that kind of, oh man, I said too much, and boom, they're on to me. Since you mentioned that, right? I mean, oh shit, I said too much. They're on to me. Then I make sure not to go down that road anymore, and that type of stuff. That's part of it all, isn't it?
Yep. You learn when to push, when to hold back, what's going to raise red flags, what you can get away with, different personality types, how to play egos, psychological manipulation. You do it enough, it gets kind of weird, and trying to express what you're doing to normal people, they get a little weirded out by it.
I knew I was going to love this topic. So you damn near dating these people by the time you get there for what you want, right? Come on, man.
It gets a little strange.
Yeah. You know what? I might touch back on those. We might circle back to some of those stories. John, before I get to you, Eric, real quick, we got the obvious ones. You got the Twitters, you got the Instagram, you got the Facebook, right? Those are the things where people are going, well, yeah, duh, right? What are ones that people aren't thinking about that you, as far as social media is concerned, that you get in there and catfish, if you will, or whatever you do?
We're always seeing new ones emerge, and as soon as the news story breaks where an offender's caught using a mainstream or a big platform, the kids are going to jump to a new one. Discord's popping up, Telegram, WhatsApp, Kick is a criminal's playground. It's one of our guys, Mike, says if you have a Kick account, you're not up to any good. You're just looking for illicit material. So the list is never ending, and it's always cyclical. We saw Facebook kind of die down, but in my area, it kicked back up. So it's always evolving.
Good stuff. And John and guys, we're gonna get to the website here in a little bit, because all the courses, you have a ton of instructors. But before we go there, John, so we hear from Eric how he's using it and what he's doing, and what are you doing as far as your gig is concerned?
Yeah, so I'm on the kind of the back end of the investigation side, and when we first started doing this, we were pretty much doing exactly what Eric and his team were doing in our gang unit, as we're looking for our just wanted gang members. And one of the things I tell my students in my class is in 2013 to 2015, Facebook was it, right?
Hmm.
Everybody was on it. It was so popular. And so we just went out there and just kind of winged it. We had no idea what sort of legal authority allowed us to do what we were doing. And luckily, there are plenty of cases in case law, including several Supreme Court cases that back you up on the use of undercover accounts in social media investigations, specifically law enforcement investigations, like Eric mentioned. So when we first started doing these, we were doing exactly what Eric was doing, is basically, super hot girl setting up guys. We were kind of just doing quick hits, looking for fugitives. And then my role really transitioned over the last probably about 7 years ago. I transitioned to more of the investigation side, where we are obviously still using undercover accounts, but what I like to call it is we're just doing it kind of from a far view, right? We're just using them for intelligence reasons, finding people, finding connections, and then it's doing the search warrants and getting down into the nitty gritty of the communications, putting them at locations during offenses and things of that nature. And the other thing we talk about a lot in our classes is, some of the trainings that you're going to go to as an officer is, these guys and girls are going to get up in front of you and tell you that I'm an expert in this, I'm an expert in this. And, in my first 30-second instruction, and most of the guys that teach our courses is, we tell everybody is this stuff literally changes. Like by the time this podcast is over, the techniques have changed
No
already.
doubt. Yeah, no doubt.
And it's really incredible, the space that we operate in, and I'm not just saying we as in me and the Covert team. It's as law enforcement in general is. It's really interesting in this space because of how quick things change. Um, so to kind of wrap that up is, yeah, so we do the investigation side, and that's really what I concentrate in my classes is, whether it's you're on a fugitive team, we get a lot of SROs, school resource officers in our courses that are dealing with a whole different set of problems in their schools. And we try to cover it all in our courses because we just get such a wide variety of students in there, really.
So with that being said, so your training isn't, it's open. It's not just law enforcement. It's not just advanced. You got teachers, principals in there, that type of stuff. Right, civilians in there learning this stuff too. Is that right? Or is it mostly civilians?
Most of our courses on our website are law enforcement only. However, we do get contacted, I would say maybe a couple times a month by private entities, and we do some private courses for them. But they are probably 30 to 40% of what we teach to law enforcement, because we really try to market our courses to law enforcement, because that's where the background of all of our instructors are, right? So we do teach some OSINT techniques to the civilian sector. However, we keep that pretty limited because, one of my biggest fears is our technique being used in some sort of illegal or unethical means against somebody. And so we want to teach the good guys, so to speak.
Most definitely. We're doing it for the good guys, so it
Right.
wouldn't make any sense otherwise. Well, so what I want to do is I want to jump on this website because now we can expand on, all the variety of topics that we're sharing. Because I thought I heard, Eric, when I talked to you yesterday, did I hear you mention something about? I thought I heard you briefly mention something about digital currency or something like that. Did I hear that right? It was like, is that like people getting robbed digital currency? Is it identity theft type stuff? People buying digital currency, with somebody else's information. Like, let's expand on what we were talking about yesterday. If I heard digital currency right, we're talking about a broad scope here, right?
Right. I'm not one of the guys teaching that specific class, but as any investigator seeing right now, and even when I went through school for more cybersecurity stuff, cybercrime mimics real world crime. It's the same stuff happening in the cyberspace. So as soon as criminals figure out they can extort people or scam people out of cryptocurrency, they're going to do it just like they would for fiat currency or physical currency. So John's always throwing up new classes with new instructors, dark web stuff, crypto investigations, anything people want. We usually find a way to get good instruction out there.
Fantastic. Well, let's take a look here, because I looked at the website and it's nuts with info. Stand by. You can see me, but I'm trying to pull this up for you here.
Yeah, and just to kind of expand on that is, one of the things that we do, and I think we all kind of pride ourselves on, is we've all been in that classroom where, it's death by PowerPoint, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the
we all
things,
know that phrase.
yeah, right. And so one of the things we try to do different is we do a lot of our stuff live in the class. And when you were talking about the cryptocurrency, in our dark web course, is we actually have the students on break go find a local, Bitcoin ATM, and we tell them, hey, go throw, 5, 10, 20 bucks and do basically like a digital wallet. And we have them after lunch go live on the dark web, and we'll have them order something live on the dark web just so they can experience what that looks like, what a digital wallet is, how you can spend it, how you can recover it, and all those things. So they really get their hands on stuff versus just getting a slideshow thrown at them for a day or two.
Dark web, huh? I mean, God, it's that easy to access, huh?
It is, yeah, and it's it's pretty crazy some of the things that are on there. But whether it's that class or Eric's class or Mike's class or any of the classes we have on there, all of our instructors are they're all, I would consider, experts in their field. It's pretty incredible, like reading the reviews of the students that come through and some of the comments. And that's kind of where we came up with the ideas of all these courses. Is from the original course, is I just started notating all the evals of one of the questions I ask is, what other law enforcement training do you want to attend? And I sit through and I just, look at all the evals and say, okay, there's a huge request for this particular topic. Let's put a course together and let's go out there and see what happens.
Oh, that's huge. Constantly expanding the knowledge base, right? That's huge. Let's take a look here. And I don't know if you want to start with. Oh, that's the wrong thing. Courses, or actually, I want to start with this here, because what sets you apart, like you said, everybody is current law enforcement, right? Is there any prior law enforcement? I know you mentioned.
Yeah, so everyone that's out teaching is current law enforcement and or is active in the field that they're teaching. So we can keep everything up to date, and a technique changes, today, it can be implemented in class tomorrow or the next day. So, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is, we're not gonna send somebody out to go teach a class that's been out of the game and show you news articles from 20 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, it's irrelevant at that
Right.
point. Yes, and you got great reviews from Washington student and Minnesota student. We're going to get in those courses too, because that's huge. Of all the places you're going to go, folks, look at this. They have Louisiana, Florida, Pennsylvania, Arizona, even Cali. That's where old Dave's from.
We've got quite the schedule ahead of us so far. And probably one of our most popular courses right now is, and we can combo courses up. If a specific agency wants a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, or 5-day, probably one of our most popular courses is like a 3-day combo of social media, open source, and geofence investigations. Geofence investigations are the hot topic in the law enforcement community probably over the last 1.5 to 2 years. They're probably one of the most quickly changing investigative techniques that I've seen since I've been in an investigative role, on the case law that comes out of them and how we can apply them and how we can't apply them. So that's probably some of our most popular topics right now.
And that schedule we're talking about, and based on the topics in the schedule, so do you base this schedule here on, is it have to do with demand? Like, okay, Lafayette has requested us to come out and they want to know about social media, open source, and geofence, right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
I did thank God, man, because I've been known to butcher stuff. You know what I'm saying? But so, and because you got, I mean, we're not talking about trainings that are, months and weeks apart. We're talking about you get to 21st, 24th through 26th, and then a week later, August. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at that. I mean, every month in there. So is it something you put out and add to, or all these request based?
To be completely honest with you, just the schedule that you see there is
Hmm.
from word of mouth referrals.
Dear God.
We really don't. And to be frankly honest with you, I'm a full-time detective right now. I really don't have time to seek out agencies. Every
You
once
don't
in a
need
while,
to. Look at it.
yeah, we get, I would say on average when we do a course, if we do a 30-person course, I would say probably at least 5 people out of that course are going to reach out to us and ask for their agency to host a training. We operate on the mindset of, we're going to come give you guys some great quality instruction, and out of that comes some really great word of mouth referrals. Like, Eric hosted a webinar today, and it's just nothing but great, reviews and evals from that course. And those people are going to go back and tell, hopefully a handful of people at their agency. And as you guys know, it just spreads like wildfire from there. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and we do some private courses too that aren't listed there. We'll have some bigger agencies that reach out and say, hey, I've got 30, 50, 100 people that we want to train. And we just keep those private so those agencies can be in control of the attendees as well.
And you guys can see there if your ears perked up about you wanting to host a course there. I mean, was it a training room and seats, and you have to have at least 30 people, Wi-Fi, audio, video presentation capabilities, and power outlets for the students, right?
Yeah,
That's a requirement.
Yeah, we try to keep it pretty simple. Most law enforcement training companies kind of offer a similar or the exact same offer. We only just ask you provide the room that has a basically projector and screen. We bring our computer, and by doing that, you get 5 free seats for the course. You basically get, a couple $1,000s worth of free training, and obviously we're going to bring everything there to host the course. And we only ask you just share the course with your local contacts. We handle all the payments, registrations, everything else, all the emails. You don't have to deal with any of the emails. We handle all that.
So, well, that brings me to my next question. So you got, I hope I remember to ask after I bring this up, but you got 1, 2, 3. How many instructors you got here? You got a million of them, and all with thick bios too.
Yes, I would say we probably have the best lineup of instructors in the investigative field of law enforcement training. I don't know of another company that has that lineup of instructors with that amount of background and knowledge base. All the instructors I've either recruited through doing some online stalking to include Eric, which is why he's laughing. Or we've met through maybe a course or a similar course and talk from there. But there's a reason that all those guys are listed on there is they go out and just crush it. They're great at what they do, and the evals speak for themselves.
Online stalking, Eric, isn't that what you're teaching again?
Well, that's why I almost didn't respond. I saw the brilliant headshot on LinkedIn asking if I wanted to teach. And this is a Russian scam for sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, he didn't answer my call because my number is that easy. He thought I was scamming. He thought I was a Russian scammer. This is a stupid question. I always ask at least one stupid question. So after you laugh at me, go ahead and maybe answer it anyway. Okay. You mentioned these people sharing the info with the local agencies, right?
Yep.
So do you guys do, like, for example, I become a DRE. Now I can just stay a DRE with the knowledge, right? Or I can go back and carry it to a point where I'm certified to now teach it, right?
Sure.
Do you guys expand in that sense as well? Like when you get somebody who's just like, man, this cyber is awesome. I got to get in it, right? And then do you certify folks, or do you let them? Do you? I don't want. That's not necessarily certify, but make them an extension for you to go ahead and share that. Teach that to the rest of their agency or neighboring agency and so on.
So we don't have a per se instructor track, kind of like what you mentioned on the DRE. However, one of the things that a couple of us during when COVID was real hot and heavy decided to do was put some content online in like an on-demand format, right? And I think you mentioned it in the very first 30 seconds of this podcast is, you attended a course where somebody made a comment to you, hey, we'll send you material after and keep you up to date, right? And then it's crickets. So one of the things that we really, really try to be cognizant about is in our in-person courses, basically for the last probably 2 years, is we give people online access to everything that they just sat through for the last 2 days. We give them completely free access to that. We also show them a basically hidden link on our website that has, as of today, has 18 different exercises for them to practice their skills on. And there's also about 4 or 5 additional training handouts that we don't even have time to cover in the courses. And I know, like when I teach, I kind of finish the course on, hey, I want you to go back and train the trainer, so to speak. Like, I want you to go and sit down with your unit and go over the things that we just talked about over the last 2 days. Because the way I look at that is, yeah, it's probably cutting some business from us, right? Because maybe I miss out on a student or two from their unit in a year from now because they already sat through their buddy training them. But as you guys both know, crime is so transient, whether you're in, Florida, Texas, Albuquerque, California, etc. We always joke that the agency that I work for here in Dallas is the largest unfenced penitentiary in the world. We have fugitives come from all over the nation. It's like they look at a map of the U.S. and they just decide to land in our city. So the way I view that is if you can go back and train 5, 10, 15 people at your agency with the techniques you just learned, that's a success for me, because it's still the stuff that you learned out of our course, and you're going to go back and serve the victims of your community with those materials.
Mm-hmm. You see how long it took you to get that, Eric? He said unfenced penitentiary. It took me a couple seconds, but I got it. I got it. Dallas, there's a Errol Spence fighting next Saturday. I don't know if you know Errol Spence. He's a Dallas boy.
Yep.
Yeah, I just had to throw that in there. Anytime I get a boxing reference in, I'm throwing it in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I asked you earlier, John, did you say anything about a case that you can talk about that you're getting down and dirty with this media to crack a case?
Yeah, so one of the things, so Eric teaches the same course that I teach, along with several of the other instructors on there. And, one of the things that we try to really open people's eyes to is the ability to use a lot of different combinations of techniques to get to that end goal, right? And one of the things I always tell my students is we in the law enforcement community we're lazy, right? We like simple, quick, easy solutions to a really complex problem sometimes. To include, yeah, exactly. We want to be able to go to some sort of database like they would show on TV and plug in a username or plug in a phone number and this huge report with fingerprints, retina scans, all this stuff comes back, and that's just not real life. So one of the cases that I recently worked on was basically a tip that came in through a online reporting system, and it was just simply a username. That's it, on a YouTube video. And that's all we had, is basically a guy driving around pointing a gun at people on the highway. And on the surface, and it's really vague, right? And so I show it now in my classes, and I put it up on the screen, and I ask everybody, if this gets assigned to you, what's your step number one? And most everybody's answer is, I'm going to jump to some sort of law enforcement database, like an Accurate, Clear, TLO, etc. But one of the things that we really try to hammer home is a bunch of solutions to solve that problem. And that particular problem is what I show them the route that I took, which is about a 2.5-hour route down a series of rabbit holes or rabbit trails that ultimately led me to the solution. And then when we get done with that exercise, is I show them there are some tools out there that can assist you with this. Like one of the tools that I really like is a platform called Cobwebs. And that is kind of a solution where you can plug in a username, a phone number, and it does a really good job at kind of mending those webs together. But I also want to show them there are manual ways to do that. And I know Eric's got a bunch of case studies in his course. Mike's got some, Chris has some, Brian, Dustin. They all have these different cases that they've been personally involved in where they can kind of show those webs or those rabbit trails on how they connect. But that's one of the recent cases that I really like to show because it kind of shows how long some of these can take. That one, again, is about 2.5 hours where you're using advanced Google searching. You're also using a little bit of social media, but you're also using some digital currency applications where you're checking people by username and phone number. And at the end, the goal of that exercise is to be able to go and tie all those things together.
Man, I mean, you picked, as far as business is concerned, you picked the most ever-changing one and the most complex one, right? I mean,
sure.
but so that brings me to a great question. I think I went from stupid question to a great question. I think it's a great question. You can tell me if it's not. You know that they're using that CI, or no, that what's it called? CGI, or
Sure.
no, what's it called? No,
like artificial intelligence, maybe.
No, so they can you're getting parents called now with with the child's voice. You understand what I'm saying? What is that called? And they just copy that.
The deepfake stuff.
What is it called?
The deepfake.
So yeah, so I mean, they hear the child's voice. They swear it's the child. They swear it is, and then they may or may not get hustled for now it's being more aware. So they say, hey, come up with the password or whatever. But I mean, is that something you guys are into too, or even if you're not, are you seeing more of that where people say, oh, I thought she was kidnapped or he was kidnapped and we paid this cat $3,000 and she was in the room the whole time? You know what I mean? You heard you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, so I'll probably let Eric speak on that, but one of the biggest things that probably one of the most popular criminal cases we see right now are like sextortion cases where
Yes.
And the reason I said Eric can speak on it is Eric, with some use of technology, is a really, really good looking girl on social media. And you can do some incredible things with Eric's picture, when you edit it just a little bit. And in the wrong hands, I'll just say that it can be used for some really illegal and unethical things.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. First of all, this is good clear. Are you saying Eric has feminine features?
With the use of technology, Eric has some really, really great undercover pictures that can be used in criminal investigations. But and the reason I say like Eric can expand on that is we see that a lot is guys using exactly the tools that Eric used to create those images, but they're using them for illegal and unethical means.
Yeah.
Whereas Eric is using his stuff for law enforcement, like getting the worst of the worst off the streets. So
yes. Speak on it, Eric, because I hear those cases also. What is it? Plenty of fish, getting a date, and then pow, right? So yeah, go ahead and expand on that all you want.
This is a pretty layered question and response, but it's pretty cool. It's something I'm pretty passionate about. So to touch on the tech and tools. When we all started using undercover profiles, none of the AI generated images, deepfake stuff really existed. So we were always stuck balancing going and finding realistic, repeatable pictures to provide to our targets in real time, stealing it from other people's profiles, from modeling sites. But it was really hard to get multiple pictures who look like the same person. And also your targets who are a little bit security conscious want a real-time picture. Like, hey, send me this, send me this. The big one now is, we see it on Kick all the time. If someone asks you to send a picture with your finger on your nose, that screws up all the deepfake face switching stuff. So that's one of their little tricks to make sure.
They already got tricks. I never even heard of this site, and they already got tricks.
And the crooks learn faster than anybody else. But the big thing is with face switching, with the artificial intelligence, with what we're running into is the ransom kidnap scams. We're seeing it a lot. We started seeing it with, at least in Albuquerque, we saw cold calling, people saying, hey, I have your kids. And 9 out of 10 would say, no, you don't, and hang up. But then they would catch the one person who, for whatever reason, and this is one of the real examples, their kids were traveling with their grandma from Phoenix to Albuquerque using the back roads through the mountains, who were out of cell service. So at that time, the kids were, they couldn't verify where the kids were. So this, with the AI generated child abuse material stuff, the AI generated sextortion stuff, what we're seeing is, and what we're going to see more and more in the future, now that people can capture voices, and I think that's what a lot of the scam calls are doing, where they have you answer and say some stuff. They're capturing your voice so they can record it, repeat it, make new words that sound like you, so they can make it really seem like, hey, we have your kid or we have your loved one. The biggest thing for all of this stuff is building in, like you mentioned, the code word, the low tech defeats to the social engineering attacks. And this is a lot of the stuff I teach, and you have to know how to attack to defend, and know how to defend to attack. But the most effective tool or concept is called out of band verification. This came from, I'm going to go down the information security rabbit hole, which John laughs at me when I try to title my courses.
Later.
Cops are going to want to learn that. But the big concept in both trying to convince somebody you are who you say you are, or convincing somebody that they have your kid, is convincing them to use the band of communication they're already on as their way to verify it. So they ask the voice who sounds like their kid for something, which could have been another piece of information that was compromised. Or the biggest one, the victim says, they know my kid's name. Well, did you tell them your kid's name, or did they tell you first? And they realize that they're accidentally providing information, or they're only using that initial compromised band of communication without reaching outside of it to verify if the information is real or not. That means if you do get hit up via a phone call, a social media platform, email, you cannot use that initial band of communication as verification that the information is accurate and true and the situation is real. So you need the code words, you need the other ways to get a hold of the person, platform switching.
Yeah, panic creates bad answers.
It does. And
You know
people say that all the time, and they freak out. They're not thinking logically, but these conversations need to happen ahead of time. But yeah, absolutely. With the AI generated stuff, the deep fakes, and that's the biggest thing with how I disturbed most of my colleagues, is if one of the techniques I teach is, if you're going to use one of these UC profiles for real-time undercover engagement, you're going to be asked for a real-time photo. That's one of the basic security checks. The bad guys are doing out-of-band verification without realizing they're doing it. So you need to be able to provide a real-time photo, and that those deepfake tools turn your own face into your UC profile, and that's just going to become more sophisticated and better as time goes on, and the crooks are using it to extort people.
No doubt. I mean, because the stories become more frequent now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mentioned the dark web. You finding the sex trafficking on there too, and all that madness on the dark web, or is it? I mean, is everything on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything that you could, read about in a news article. It's if you want to order meth, you want to order a hitman, you want to order illegal firearms. It's all on there. But and just to kind of expand on what Eric talked about the sextortion and the artificial intelligence, I just shared a news article on my LinkedIn 2 days ago that was done by Petapixel, and basically it took images of high-profile celebrities and politicians, and it used artificial intelligence to basically create what appeared to be like cheating images of them and their spouse, right? But it talked about the whole reason behind the article. Obviously, it's all fake images, but it just shows like how that can be used, for let's say a CEO at a major Fortune 500 company, right? He may not even be aware that technology exists, but somebody could use that against him to extort him for an incredible amount of money. And they may have no idea if he's even cheating on his spouse or not. By dropping that picture off to his spouse or kids or whatever is, setting that kind of ticking time bomb off. But it's pretty crazy the advances in technology, probably just in the last 2 to 3 years, on the tools that we have available to us in our law enforcement investigations.
And that's what I'm saying. 1 minute you're minding your business, the next minute you're being blackmailed.
Right, for sure.
You know?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to see.
Well, I'll let you guys decide who goes first, but give me that oh shit moment, like seeing what because in the real world you see some stuff, right? But what you guys are looking through, you see some stuff.
Sure.
You just say the word dark web, and like you said, anything from anything, nothing's off the table. What's your biggest damn moment? You know what I mean? You pick who goes first.
You want to go, Eric?
Yeah, I'll go first because luckily none of my stuff really ever touched the dark web. All of my guys were tweakers, really violent offenders, low tech. So the only stuff we saw was just the violence broadcast through their social media platforms, live streamed murders, violent acts, that kind of stuff.
Pause. That's an old damn moment right there. You said live stream murders. You know what I mean? That's
right.
Damn. How do you see that, bud? I'm saying, how frequent is it that you see live stream murders?
It's really strange the way the algorithms on social media work. If you have a real account and a fake account, the stuff you look out for criminal tracking and the stuff you look at for your own personal stuff, the things the algorithm or the platform suggests to you just go down very, very different paths. So once you get into some criminal organizations not even organizations, just social networks around some people that are involved in violent activity, you're going to see things they post, you're going to see things they share, and it's going to kind of spiral and start rolling downhill. You're going to see just shootings in Chicago, things that your offenders are doing, people are doing themselves, stuff they think is cool because they like to share that stuff and get the attention. So it's an everyday, all day thing. But we saw quite a few of our offenders either live streaming the actual shooting, live streaming with the firearm prior to the offense or after the offense.
Well, at least they're making it easy. Right? What about you, John? You had an old damn moment, no?
Yeah, probably. Same thing with Eric, is we primarily work on violent crime stuff, so we're not really investigating too deep down the rabbit trail on the dark web. But I would say probably some of the cases that were, I don't know if they were oh damn moments, more as being eye-opening moments for us, were some of the suicidal things that we assisted on social media. Where we would see a post or a video or, like Eric said, a live stream of something, and being able to act on that and get an officer at a doorstep within 20-25 minutes of that.
That's huge. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we really, or at least I really try to drive home in our social media classes. Whether it's a suicidal post or it's an officer that gets shot and killed. We've worked on cases like that before where an officer's been shot and killed and your only lead is the suspect's social media. What can you do with that? And do you want to be the one standing there holding that bag, so to speak, and not have a clue on what to do with that? So probably some of the suicidal cases that we've worked on where, like I said, we see a video or we see a picture, and we're able to act on that very quickly. And, most of the social media companies we work with on things of that nature are real responsive, and they're going to get you at least something that you can work with to try to get you to a doorstep.
Yeah, they'll give you a little a string to tug, right, where you can.
Yeah, they're going to give you.
Right?
Yeah, they're going to give you an appetizer, is what I call it, and then the rest is on you to kind of finish the course.
Yeah, well, let me. What was the? What's the one? Well, first of all, let me tell you, I got to have you guys back because if it's okay with you, I want you to. You mentioned some of those exercises that you send them home with, right?
Yep.
And some other things that you would show them. If at all possible, I would love to get up there and share the screen, and without giving away the whole sandwich, I'd like at least to show them what kind of bread it is, if you know what I mean. Sure. Like scrolling through some of your exercises and some of the stuff that you're showing. How that sound? Would that be all right?
Yeah, we could definitely do that. I could probably just build one and we could walk through one live and Obviously, we probably wouldn't use a criminal case, but there's plenty of
Of course.
good open source cases that I show in the classroom, and usually, and I know the other instructors do the same. Is I'll usually find like a trending news article wherever I'm teaching, and we try to just find somebody in the news article, and we'll just kind of go down the rabbit trail with them, so we can do something like that and just kind of show some exploits, and kind of go down and show what we display in the exercises for sure.
That's fantastic. And what questions did I not ask that you wanted to talk about? Anything I didn't bring up that you feel you want to get out there and let these folks know?
From my perspective, is really just get out there and get training. One of the biggest things that I see is guys get frustrated that their agency is not putting them through training or won't approve the funding and stuff like that. So I know that's one of the biggest reasons we put out some of our on-demand courses. Is they're cheap. They're $75. They're you can pause them, start them, stop them, rewind them when and where you have time. Can be from the house, can be from the office. They can be from your MDT out in the field working midnights. You kind of are your own captain in your law enforcement career, so to speak. You got to drive that ship and put yourself through the courses and the training that you want to go through, just like Eric and I went through. And sometimes you just got to get on there and screw some stuff up to figure stuff out too. So
you really do. You got to make a mess before you clean stuff up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes, yeah, no doubt about it. Did I miss anything, Eric?
One thing I'd add, just the thing I've run into throughout my career is cops typically have a very, very type A attitude, where they're great at doing the things they like. They're happy to go get training with the things they feel comfortable with. But whether it's martial arts, jiu-jitsu, or social media investigations, learning how to catfish somebody, a lot of cops refuse to even dip their toe in because it feels new and uncomfortable, and they feel very hesitant to be bad at something, or very hesitant to feel like they're out of their depth. But it doesn't matter if you're a field officer, SRO, a fugitive team, a burglary unit. It's very likely that one night when you're out, you're going to get the guy, or you're going to be the guy that gets the call that this situation is happening right now, and you need to know what to do right now. And these tools are just free passive intelligence streams, free direct access to your target and their network. And even something as simple that John and I take for granted, like executing an exigent against Meta for a Facebook or Instagram return to get to an IP to jump to a phone. If somebody's never tried that on their own, or never even looked at how to do it, when the clock is ticking and when time matters and lives are on the line, you don't want to be learning how to do it. So I think just a lot of people need to be more willing to get out of their comfort zone. And if this is a tool that could benefit them, keep their family safer and the people of the community safer, it just got to get out there and do it.
Well, that brings me on. I think I have another decent question for you. Based on what you folks just said, right, and real time, right? You're talking about you went as far as saying you get a call and you can find out real time how to get where you need to get, right? Don't worry about the dog, man. We've had cats meowing before. It doesn't matter, man. You know what I'm saying? I had a goldfish jump on the desk. So don't worry about it, man. But what I'm saying is, with what you just said, being able to help you real time, the expansion, the social media blowing the hell up, right? Would you say that? Shoot, they should make some. Man, I probably froze on you, didn't I?
Yeah, we right after would you say you froze? It was perfect timing.
Oh, so, okay. Well, I was gonna say, wouldn't you say that with all that into play, what you said, and the expansion of social media just blowing up all these different things, and wouldn't you say that hell, they should make this mandatory in law enforcement?
It's going to get to a point, and John will attest to this too, but we're seeing technology, social media. God, if we go down the rabbit hole of getting to the point of centralized digital currency, who knows? But this is going to get to a point in 15, 20 years where the cops coming in and just your average citizen, this is inextricably linked to your day-to-day life. And if you don't know how to navigate this stuff, especially the senior cops now that are hitting retirement that never had this as kids, never learned it in the academy, they don't know what to do. And the kids that do know what to do don't have the investigative experience. So it's just, it absolutely should be mandatory.
You probably get a lot of if it was mandatory, you would get a lot of pushback from those salty dudes that have been around for eons, since Jesus Christ was in the 3rd grade. You know what I mean? Those cats have been around. They probably get pushback, but so what? I mean, if you can use it, it can help. And you said yourself, saving communities, right? So that's huge. I really would like to have you guys back so we can see some of the, you can create one of those exercises for me. And all you got to do is tell me when you're willing to come on, because I think as soon as you said exercises and stuff, I was like, oh, well, let me see. Let's get down on it. You know what I mean? It's good to see, So the website is covertmediaconsulting.com.
Yes, sir.
And if I can navigate it, anybody, Ray Charles can navigate it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you pull up the class schedule, there's a button right there that says register. They click, they register, right? It doesn't matter if I live in South Carolina. If I want to register for something in Texas, as long as there's room, I can go.
Yep. As long as there's room, come on.
Fantastic. All right. I love it. John Hawk, the owner. Eric Enzer, I'm going to call you his right-hand man. The guy who got cyber-stalked to do this. But hey, I hope to have you back. And anybody who wants to get on the LEO Network podcast, just click the link in the description below, and we'll get you on there, because all this stuff is fascinating. And fellas, thanks for doing what you do. It's obviously thriving. You've been around for a minute, for years now. You know what I mean? So, and this is something that's not going away. So, you picked a secure one, bud.
Well, thanks for having us on. We appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care. All right, LEO Network podcast. Click the description, and we'll get you on.